Hello, I'm Bretton, one of our MCAT tutors here at Inspira Advantage, where we help students get into medical school and other professional programs. And welcome back to MCAT Bites. Today, we're delving deep into the realm of psychological disorders, focusing on the ones most crucial for the MCAT, specifically psych-soc section. We're going to hit depression, schizophrenia, bipolar disorders 1 and 2, cyclothemia, OCD, and anxiety. Understanding these conditions is key to mastering the psych-soc and even some biochem foundations of behavior sections of the MCAT. So you'll definitely want to make some good Anki cards on these. Let's start off with one of the most common of the psychological disorders, depression, or major depressive disorder. It's characterized by persistent sadness, lack of interest in activities, and a range of emotional and physical problems. It's thought to be caused by a combination of genetic, biological, environmental, and psychological factors, something you're going to hear a lot. Treatments often include medications like SSRIs and psychotherapy, and SSRI stands for selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. The MCAT loves asking about SSRIs, so that's another great Anki card to make. Next up, we've got schizophrenia. Schizophrenia manifests through a mix of positive symptoms like hallucinations and delusions. Negative symptoms like apathy and cognitive symptoms are affecting memory. The disorder is linked to an imbalance of neurotransmitters and structural brain changes. Treatment combines antipsychotic medications and therapy to manage symptoms. And yes, you are responsible for knowing broadly what treatments will work for schizophrenia. So the key here is antipsychotics. A classic question on the MCAT will ask you to identify these. So if they were asking me to identify schizophrenia, they oftentimes would talk about hallucinations as the big one. And it doesn't have to be a visual hallucination. It could also be an auditory hallucination. Not all schizophrenics, but some schizophrenics will hear voices. Next, we've got one of the more complicated and unfortunately more often tested psychological disorders for the MCAT. Bipolar disorders type 1 and 2 also synergizes with cyclothymia pretty intensely. What really helped me understand for the MCAT was this very graph. So let's start diving into it here. Bipolar disorder is marked by dramatic shifts in mood, energy, and activity levels. Type 1 involves severe manic episodes, while type 2 is characterized by less intense hypo with an O manic episodes and depressive episodes. So let's see what that looks like. Bipolar type 1, we get super manic, but we also have really super depression. So you're doing crazy things and then you're really sad. And then you will sometimes hit just average feelings on the way up. Bipolar type 2 isn't nearly as fun. You only get hypomania, which is not as intense of manic feelings as, well, mania. Hypo means less, so less manic, but still more manic than your average Joe. And then you still get major depression. So that's what you want to think of with the bipolars type 1 and 2. Both of them are going to have a major depressive episode. However, bipolar type 1 is going to go higher than bipolar type 2. I like to think of this sort of like the Olympics, where bipolar type 1, it's number 1, right? So it's at the top of the podium. Bipolar type 2 isn't quite at the top of the podium. And then I just remember that they're all major depressive sometimes. And cyclothymia, we'll get to now. Cyclothymia, also known as cyclothymic disorder, involves periods of hypomanic symptoms and mild depressive symptoms. While less severe than bipolar disorder, it can impact life quality. Management might include lifestyle changes, counseling, and sometimes medications to help stabilize mood swings. Again, these medications are probably antipsychotics and antidepressants. And that should make sense, because if we look at cyclothymia on a graph, well, it's just like a less intense form of bipolar, really. We see, okay, we're hypomanic, and then we're not quite major depressive, but we might be pretty darn sad. We might not want to leave the bed, interfering with quality of life. It sucks. So you're kind of, I'm hypomanic. Let's invest in stocks and do all these crazy things. I'm going to buy a put on GameStop. And then I'm pretty sad. I'm not going to go to class. So similar to bipolar, but not as intense. And that's how the MCAT's going to frame it for you. Another classic MCAT question is about OCD. They love asking about OCD, which stands for obsessive compulsive disorder. And it features a pattern of unwanted thoughts or obsessions leading to repetitive behavior called compulsions. It's associated with a dysfunction in the frontal lobe activity. Treatment is often combining SSRIs with cognitive behavioral therapy, focusing on exposure and response prevention. The classic example of this would be washing your hands 30 times before going out the door, or closing the door 5 times to make sure it's locked. It's those repetitive tasks that interfere with your quality of life. And finally, anxiety disorders. You might be feeling some anxiety studying for the MCAT. A lot of pre-meds these days are suffering from anxiety, so this might be something that you're familiar with. As far as the MCAT is concerned, anxiety disorders encompass a lot of different conditions, like generalized anxiety disorder, panic disorder, and phobias. All are going to involve excess fear or anxiety. They're linked to abnormalities in neurotransmitter systems. Treatments include psychotherapy, particularly CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. The MCAT loves asking you about CBT, as well as medications like SSRIs, and a unique one for this one is benzodiazepines, though those are a bit older prescribed. Now that we've hit all of the big psychological disorders you need to know for the MCAT, let's do a practice question. Which of the following is a first-line treatment for major depressive disorder? Benzodiazepines, SSRIs, antipsychotics, or mood stabilizer? Correct answer for this one is SSRIs. Want that serotonin to do some more signaling. In summary, understanding the complexity of psychological disorders and their treatments is absolutely vital for the MCAT and as future medical professionals, no matter where you go. So stay tuned to MCAT Bites for more insights into the medical field. And until next time, keep studying, stay curious, and thank you for watching our videos. I'll see you next time.